Hey, hello! If you're new here, my name is Rain. If you're not new here, welcome back. I really appreciate you stopping on by to my little corner of the internet. And in today's video, we're going to be doing Drawtober Prompt 4, which is Undead. And so, real quick, before we get into the video, I am going to, at some point, discuss the Prompt 3, where I finished up and zhuzhed up some Howl Pendragon fan art that I will be showing later when I get to that part. But for now, I want to just quickly mention that if you decide to get creative alongside me, I would love to see it or hear about it. If you feel comfortable sharing down in the comments or tagging me or private messaging me on any of the social medias. And I guess just sit back, relax, and let's talk about zombie women. Hot zombie women, maybe. That depends on your taste. So let's get started. Editing Rain popping in from the future because I forgot to say that if you have the time to watch this video all the way through, I would really appreciate it because I want to share my end product with you. And also, if you end up ever having anything to say at any point throughout this video, feel free to comment it down below. Even if I answer it later, I love to chat and talk, so I'm always down there ready to communicate within a 24-hour span because I have some French viewers and time zones kill. So back to the video, and I really hope you enjoy. I've had this pen sketch of this kind of zombie undead character sitting around in my sketchbook for a fair-ish bit of time, and so I just felt like with everything that's been going on in my day-to-day life recently that I should, instead of kind of focusing on doing new things for Drawtober, take the time to find things in my sketchbook that fall in line with the prompts and actually finish them. And see some of these pieces that I've been telling myself that I'm gonna get to that eventually, or I'll get to it later, or oh, just after this next idea, and actually see them to completion. And use Drawtober, instead of to create new stuff based on the prompt list, to actually kind of bring to life some of these ideas I've had lingering and have already kind of started to put down on paper. Now, if the Drawtober prompts were different this year, this would not be the scenario, but I just so happened to draw a lot more macabre and kind of do more spooky art oriented towards this year's Monster Mash theme. So I have a lot of sketches that just lying around that really just fit the entire theme. I had just about everything except for vampire just around to be created. I did try something new for Shapeshifter if you watched my last video where I tried to draw Halsin from Baldur's Gate 3, but honestly, I just felt like I had a lot of it just already there, and I already have shown the sketch off on the channel before, and I was starting to feel a little bad that I wasn't actually following through and seeing it completed, since she did turn out super pretty for a ballpoint pen sketch in the first place. Just for future reference in terms of videos, I also am pretty sure that I'm going to zhuzh up a sketch that I haven't shown before on the channel for the monster prompt, but I'm thinking I don't have anything already set aside for Ghost, and that I'm going to have a stressful time with that one, because I am not a creature who is good at transparency, so I anticipate that I will have a very stressful time. But that's my summary for kind of where Drawtober is going for the rest of the month, since we're only on the third week. So I do have 2 more drawings after this one, but I have plans, and so I think I'm going to show them all in the next video. If not, I will be doing a early November Drawtober summary where I show off the work I made and talk about it for a little bit. So that'll be super fun to do on the channel, especially because it's my second Drawtober, so I can do a kind of 2-year Drawtober kind of in review and kind of see if I've improved and not, and kind of just talk about the process. So that's going to be super, super exciting. That'll probably be my first video of November, maybe the second one, depending on if any super fun art kind of just captures me, but we'll see where that goes. Finally, actually, regarding the real drawing and kind of like what's happening on the screen, what we're looking at, I wanted to start with a super light skin tone, so I started earlier, as you saw, with a basically white color, and I'm building up kind of peachier tones and purples at this point to start kind of figuring out how I want the character's kind of skin tone to be conveyed, because they are undead, right? They're very much missing a portion of their body, both in the tummy region and the arm. Some of the hip region and leg aren't doing so hot at this point. And so I'm not entirely sure how, like, lively I want them to be in terms of color. I'm also working with the additional challenge of having to build up a lot of layers regardless, because I'm working on 2 different tones of paper. So that brown, very obviously on the leg closest to the camera, you can see how it's layering over that brown color very differently than the slightly yellow tone of the page. And that means that I just have a lot of layering I need to do to get them to be looking more even and flat, or basically just define shadows so that it makes sense for that area to be darker. And I generally just wasn't feeling like doing any particularly obvious or direct lighting with this piece where I could kind of try and wiggle it around and make it work out, maybe finagle it a touch. So I decided that I'm just going to just keep layering until I feel satisfied, and frankly, I ended up coming away from this piece both deciding that I really want to do this different papers for the same drawing thing again, but never this way ever again. So I am thinking, based on just this experience, that I want to do more ballpoint pen sketches where I layer a different paper in random shapes over it and do the sketch as if it's all one clean sheet. Do a full render on the areas the brown paper isn't, and then peel it up and have it kind of be like an x-ray of the sketch layer that was originally there. So to do that, I do need to do the sketch once on the white paper and then do it over on the brown paper, but I think it'll create a really, really fun effect, and I'm super into it as a concept. So I definitely came away from this piece with something really enticing, I think. But on top of that, I was trying to play around with what color I wanted the inside kind of open part of the body to be, and I kind of wanted to stray away from any sort of intense graphicness to the piece that actually kind of resembled flesh and kind of resembled something that should be censored or particularly gory. While it is the kind of October season, I don't find that I'm someone who really likes drawing gore or kind of trying to render like the texture of the inside of a human. That sounds really weird to say, but I don't really want to try and render kind of like that moist internal area. And I want to do something a little bit more abstract, but still impactful in its own right. And I found that I just really have been liking this deep purple kind of mist to it. I didn't realize until after I finished this piece that it's kind of reminding me of Karen from kind of the way Karen is represented in Hades 1. The way that, like, he has his purple wispy smoke to kind of signify his power and kind of imitate him having some sort of breath and life force, I think, is how you're supposed to kind of interpret the purple smoke coming from his mouth region. But I very much like it as a sign of life. And I think that there's room for it to be done with other colors and have it be kind of indicative of like the quality of the soul or the quality of the life lived, or maybe the smoke is like possessing the person and kind of bringing them back together, and this is some sort of signifying of a symbiosis again. I still I think that this kind of symbiosis approach and philosophy around the human body and some sort of kind of sentient entity taking control of a large portion of it is a direction that I just need to go in with my art, and especially my art related to my kind of health and stuff. And this kind of like lack of personal control and way of articulating as a way of articulating what it feels like and how I kind of like process living with it. I think that this is just like where my work needs to go, because I'm finding that there's so much catharsis and just passive intrigue coming from me whenever I characterize something as not being wholly itself anymore and having some sort of other entity that maintains a partial control. But when that topic comes to life with people who are still alive, it purely just grosses and weirds me out. For example, oh, you know what? This might not be super relevant as a piece of media, but a kind of topic, like a version of like aliens living in a body that is sentient and had a life before it and were actively living when possessed, is The Host, that movie and book series. And like, I hate that. That is really gross and uncomfortable and disconcerting to me. I cannot jive with people not having their autonomy. Well, there's something like sentient inside of them. I can kind of jive with like some sort of parasite. I guess that's still kind of sentient, but I can't really, I don't know, there's just kind of like a boundary I need to place, and I feel like doing it with people who are no longer living and there's a new life through it is both a better kind of symbolic representation of what it feels like, because you don't, well, I guess you do lose your life and get a new one, and it just doesn't feel right to yeah, I don't know. It's more so like a personal disconcerted feeling about it and not like an actual like artistic lack of interest. So, I mean, if there's somebody who can better articulate in words what I'm trying to say about the lack of self-control and self-autonomy and how that play out well with sentience and two sentient entities, I'd be very interested in seeing it and having a further discussion about it. I think that for my narrative purposes regarding health and chronic illness, especially late onset chronic illnesses or illnesses you're not born with, it kind of feels right to have the character having a life before this that has already ended, because there's kind of a death of the self that I feel comes with chronic illness, and it was something that made this piece kind of cathartic in a weird way. This piece wasn't supposed to be health related at all, but as I was doing it, I felt like I was kind of investing more of that personal feeling and devotion to the topic and concept of chronic illness, and how I was feeling whilst rendering it was very much indicative of being trapped in the body and not feeling particularly great. I've been going through some pretty substantial downsides in terms of my physical health since my diagnosis back in July. it's weird to articulate and especially to explain to other people, but there's a recovery that needs to happen when you take trips and you have something that causes chronic pain and you have chronic fatigue. And despite that trip happening months ago now, I feel like I haven't bounced back to where I was before all of that energy and stress was invested into the actual process of getting the diagnosis. And the worst part is I didn't even do any of the driving. So I even got to rest on the trip, and I still feel like it's having a lasting impact on my ability to kind of come back. And I've been needing to return to art that helps me manage those feelings and like processing this information in a way that's like beneficial for me and my brain more and more recently, because I'm getting increasingly frustrated with like a lack of performance on my end to the standard I was living with in the early half of the year. And so, while that's not what this piece was set out to be about, I found that as soon as I started adding the purple wisps and I started exploring those kind of feelings and those kind of thoughts in my head, the piece just started to evolve and continued to evolve to being more of a playful and cathartic illustration rather than something that was supposed to be serious in relation to Drawtober. And that was kind of a really fun turn of events for me in the actual process. But because you'd think that like art about health would make more sense for it to be the serious work, the work that you're really invested in, having it articulate the way you want it to. But there was something about today and being in my sketchbook where it just felt right to let it just happen and to not care and to just kind of use this pre-existing sketch and those base few colors that I had set down as a method for trying to process those feelings that I was avoiding leading up to today. And I feel a lot better now. To an extent, I feel a lot better now, at least. And I feel a little bit more myself after drawing this piece and kind of approaching that work. And so I want to bring back my plant zombie people, do some more sketches relating to that, actually either putting them in environments or doing some like character designs for people who are much more far gone in the process. I want to work on more photosynthetic versions and kind of trying to figure out how I want to represent photosynthesis, but I also want to kind of start exploring how I want to approach doing hair in the plant zombies who have been around for so much longer, because I think I need to figure out the point where you start to no longer really truly resemble who you were as a human anymore, right? I think there comes a point where you've been so consumed with plants and because you are not really fully human anymore and these plants are part of you, they're the reason you're alive just as much as you're the reason they're alive, that they get to a point where they start to consume you because you can't perform plant maintenance with the diversity of plants that I want to represent the same way you can kind of maintain your normal physical form, right? You can't just chop off like philodendron hair and have it be totally fine and without maybe potentially damaging yourself as an entity, right? And that's something I really want to start to explore, and maybe kind of figuring out a way to tie that into what life is like when you've had a chronic illness for a long time. And maybe there will be a point in my future where that'll come more naturally, because I'm only a decade into being chronically ill, but I've only kind of actually really processed life with real intense pain and a complete kind of dependency on other people and things to help me maintain normalcy for a couple of years now, and maybe a decade from now I'll have this will be the perfect kind of metaphor for something that I haven't even realized will happen yet. And that's something I want to start exploring now, because one thing that's really beautiful and cathartic about art, for me at the very least, is looking back at it, right? When you get to go back to art from years upon years ago and look at how you were thinking and processing the kind of way that you were conceptualizing the universe, processing information, jotting it down, creating things, you see a snapshot of yourself and your mentality and who you were in that moment, right? Because your art is you. It is so innately you as a person. No matter what you actually draw, what your subject matter is, there's something about you there. Even the most hyper-realistic of artists who spend loads of time on their work have decisions that they have to make, even if it is just the subject matter that they're choosing to present hyper-realistically. That is still a decision that not everyone in the universe would make, and I feel like there's still something to that. But when you create something that's more stylized, illustrative, or personal, like my work often is, even my character designs have a lot of personality to them that tie to my everyday life, or who I am, or who the people I value are, or things that I wish to see challenged and explored more in the media that I personally consume, and things like that, right? And so you are so represented in your own art, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, right? And so I have all these ideas, and because my work is related to something that I'm going to have forever when it comes to my more health-related art and my zombies, like this one, even while they're not a plant zombie, they're still a zombie that I ended up finding catharsis in, and I think I want to explore kind of resembling or imitating pain through different voids within the body and deterioration. So I'm thinking about making it more of a staple in my work, a zombie of more this kind of nature, right? But aside from that, I don't know how these ideas will change in 10 years, or if I'll still value this point of my artistic journey and keep these series alive 10 years from now. But in the event that I do, I want to have today's understanding of who I am now as well documented as possible, so that the future me that continues that journey and that mission and that personal exploration can look back at it and draw from it, or have a comparison, or discuss how everything has changed in those 10 years. And that's assuming nothing completely wild happens and I evaporate into the ethos or something wild like that, but you know what I mean. And that's something that I really value about art as a general capacity, and I don't feel like I've done a sketchbook tour in a long time while talking about some of my old work, and I think I need to probably do another one, maybe probably before the end of the year, so that I can continue to talk about just how much I value the previous me, not the previous me, they're not dead, but who I was all those years ago when I started those certain sketchbooks, for continuing to draw and pursue creativity and allow me to get to the point that I'm at now. And frankly, the more I create and the more I draw, the more passionate I become about it, because I have an even larger anthology of work that shows years of dedication and perseverance to this progression of a skill that is going to do nothing for anybody but me, unless I choose to try and do what I do here, which is advocate and talk and share and kind of explore creativity in a public manner. But at the end of the day, I don't create art that falls in line with kind of modern art and art that is popular in the kind of wider media. And so it's the community that I foster here and the way I communicate my ideas and present myself, and the way that I share my work and the work I make and the way I articulate those ideas both verbally and artistically, that allows me to do something meaningful for people other than me here on this platform. Or I do nothing at all for you and you're just sitting here listening to me ramble, but at the end of the day, that I think that still means that I'm providing something of value to people, and that is also a thing that adds just so much more to the value that I put upon continuing to create, because people spend time with me and they look at my work and watch me create it, and that is something that is so beyond mind-boggling when you think of it as an artist yourself. I don't know what percentage of my audience are people who also create, and I don't know what percent of my audience are people who create videos or processes of like being creative in any capacity. But the idea that somebody wants to watch you create something that is so personal and magical to you, and to pour yourself and your heart out onto a piece of paper in some capacity or another, be it through fan art, abstraction, or the stuff I do, so on and so forth, it's something that's so beyond comprehension, because when you create art for yourself and then you try and present it in a media so that you can hope to do something for somebody beyond just yourself, it feels like you're taking a step to create mutuals who want to be with you and create art with you, and kind of the process of creating art mutuals, which is something that I never really got to have. I never had. So for me to now be like actually taking art seriously, I know I say that like I haven't been on YouTube for over a year now. Can you believe it? But it's still weird to me that I'm taking art seriously. It really still, even after a year on YouTube and maybe 6 months to a year of taking art as something that I want to do for the rest of my life in some sort of public manner. And by public manner, I mean I made the finalized decision that I was going to become an art teacher in my like last half of the third year of college, I think. And so it was a year, almost, I guess 2 years now, because I did my fourth year and now I'm like in my first year of my master's, right? And I'm like maybe like a quarter, halfway through the first like year. It's weird when the semester starts at like August, you know what I mean? But like I 2 years into taking art seriously, I'm taking the process of creating art mutuals and people like my subscribers who actually like take the time to engage with me and share their art with me. And it's been such a healing process that has allowed me to, I don't know, it's allowed me to feel like my art matters beyond just myself. I think this is a long-winded way of saying that sharing my art, while it is not always the nicest thing to do on the internet, and it has a lot of downsides, especially when you get strongly pulled into the ideas of numbers and an algorithm, and you allow those numbers to kind of dictate your emotions and your feelings, it can have a horrible, absolutely disgusting impact on your mental health as an artist and your value and your perception of the worth of your work and who you are and everything that you're doing and creating. But if you learn to ignore the concept of numbers and you can just sit down and value the fact that you're doing something you love and people are also enjoying the stuff that you're presenting, even if it's not a lot of people, no matter how many there is something so pleasant about that process. And it's been something that's been really driving me forward more and more recently, because it's providing me an additional understanding of the value that my art can have. And that's been something that's been really helping me through kind of the lower points in my work and my personal life recently. Knowing that my art means something to somebody, and knowing that such a massive part of who I am as an individual, which is this art creation, which is this YouTube channel where I get to talk to you guys once a week and share my work and talk about things, has been emotionally supporting me through the art block I just went through and my frustrations when trying to draw masculine, manly, wholesome last week. It's the process of knowing that I get to share my ups and downs with people, and this is kind of one of my ups because I feel like I'm finally getting back in the swing of things. I know my art block was like kind of subsiding for the last couple of uploads, but I really feel optimistic about where art is going to go, and especially with the winter season, while my videos will probably take a dive in video quality in terms of like lighting because it gets really dark where I live during the winter, even in the middle of the day, I at the very least will, I usually tend to feel more inspired because I'm more pulled inside and the flowers aren't around for me to want to go frolic and look at them and be all like, I want to dissect you and understand your internals, little flower. That makes me sound creepy. Ew. But, plant dissection can be fun, and it's not always weird, I swear. But, I finally feel like I'm like on a total upswing, and I'm really optimistic about where art is going to go, and I think that no matter where things go in my personal life and my work life coming from the next couple of weeks, that at least artistically, I'm going to have a really wonderful outlet that makes me feel fulfilled in every way now, because I'm not going to be battling those frustrations, and I'm really, really looking forward to it, and I'm excited to see what I start to produce. And I think maybe that comes with going back and trying to force myself, like I did with this video, to finish drawings that have been sitting unfinished for a while, because there's something about unfinished work, and the more it continues to build and build and build and build in terms of like the work that you're producing and stuff, you just continue starting and not finishing a project, and you still love the concept and you want to return to it, it starts to haunt you. Not you, it starts to haunt me. I should talk about myself, not kind of like a generalization. It haunts me because I want to finish it, I want to see it done, but I'm not motivated to do it. And that lack of motivation isn't that I don't love the piece anymore, it's the fact that I just simply am not giving myself the time and the space to create a plan to see it executed. And I think when I love a sketch so much and then I don't finish it in the moment, I start to fear that I will destroy the sketch and I will lose the value that it had while it was sitting in my sketchbook before, and it'll become a worse version of what I was hoping to see, right? And I don't even know if this one turned out better or worse, to be honest. I don't know that it really matters or that I really actually care in the grand scheme of things when you think about the kind of process of improving as an artist and maybe even as a person when it came to the actual like thing at hand, right? I'm finishing a project because I'm scared of ruining it, and I'm now forcing myself to no longer be scared of what this end phase might be, right? Because I love all of my pen sketches, basically, even the ones that are ugly, misproportioned, and awful, because I love the way that ballpoint pen looks. So if I really keep in this mindset and think like this, I'm never going to finish any ballpoint pen sketch and turning it into like a proper painting or anything, because I love them all, and I shouldn't just let myself sit and wallow in this kind of ideology that because it's so good, I can't try and actually see it to the completion I envisioned, right? I have pictures of it in its previous phase, and I don't really know that I need to cling to that version forever in my sketchbook. I can take it to the next phase and improve my skill, and if I ever so really desperately desire, I can recreate the ballpoint pen sketch even better, because I'll have even more skills and be better equipped to do the sketch again. And I think that that is something that I'm gonna really work on doing, like forcing myself to do the thing, right? Because it felt so good to not have to like look back at this and be like, oh, it's not finished. I'm gonna finish this one day eventually. I mean, I've been putting sticky tabs on it. I've even been putting the like stringy bookmarky thingy that my sketchbook has attached to it on the page so that I would open my sketchbook to it and I'd be like, ooh, right, I need to do this. William, can you not lick your tail so loudly while I'm recording? Thank you. Really? Oh, wow, she actually listened. Wow, thank you. And it's been, I don't know, I just feel so great right now. And I hope it stays this way. And I also really would like if you care to answer, do you feel like it looks better at the end of this video? However far along you watch, to where you are now and to what it ends up looking like at the very end, right? Okay, but like really quickly, as promised, before I completely forget to talk about it at all in this video, I did a pen sketch of Howl Pendragon from Howl's Moving Castle, and I really liked it, and I wanted to share it in a little bit of a video format, and also just pop it into this video so it would like be archived in my Drawtober playlist as like part of Drawtober, right? So I wanted to pop that like in here so that it could be preserved, but also just so I could share it with you guys. I don't have a whole lot to say other than the fact that I really, really like it, and I think he turned out super cute, but I also maybe made him a little bit too like brooding and not enough of a scared, kind of emotionally fragile, flamboyant boy. Like, I think the cuts on his face give too much like try harder sweetheart, and not like you literally just damaged my most beautiful face, my life is completely over, I can't believe you, and then wallowing in his green goo slime, right? So I mean, definitely maybe made him a little bit too strong-willed to truly encapsulate Howl, but I still think it turned out good. So I mean, 50-50 win there, right? Like, I got close enough, maybe? Okay, like, kind of back to your regularly scheduled program now. I do really quickly, before we get back into the judging of this piece, not these, I feel like I haven't checked in with everybody in a while about what is wanted to be seen on the channel, and if there's anything that people have been kind of like missing recently, wanting to see more of, because I kind of just go with the flow in terms of what I feel like creating at the time. But I do want to check in because I feel like I haven't asked, like, do you guys want more sketchbook sessions? Do you guys want to watch me like try and learn to draw something I've never drawn before, like cats? Can't draw cats, can't draw fox, can't draw animals. Dinosaurs? Hear me out. Dinosaurs? Thoughts? Maybe. Things like that. Little art challenges like drawing undercolored lights. I could continue working on that some more on the channel. Things like that. You know, those things that are just kind of like fun and not super, like, dedicated isn't the correct word, but like deep and thought-provoking. Not that I'm particularly thought-provoking, but I do talk a lot, and I do ask a lot of questions, pose a lot of questions, and ramble on about a lot of kind of like important things. And so that's something where I feel like I do need to check in from time to time, because I can ramble about nonsense forever. And I have this, my financial advisor can also ramble about things forever. He's like my perfect match in terms of just communicating, because it's like, tell me your hyperfixation about this thing and I will ramble on about all of these things that I want to talk about, and I can do it forever. Like, I could just talk and talk and talk and talk And sure, my throat will get dry and my speech impediment will definitely get worse and worse and worse the more that I communicate, because I like lose the ability to even think. And so my I don't have a stutter, I don't think. Maybe I do. I can't tell. But like the slur of my S's just get progressively more like kind of hard to understand. And I mean, I'm doing that to you right now, but like, do you want me to do less of it by doing things that are challenges where I actually have something that's a little bit more structured to guide the actual kind of thought process through the video? Other videos on my channel that kind of fall in line with having a bit more structure to it are like my sketchbook flip throughs, like going through my old sketchbooks and going through sketchbooks I've completed since starting the channel. I think I've only completed one. No, I've completed 2. Have I? Wait, I don't remember what my last sketch... No, I've completed 2. I've completed it. I know what I'm talking about, I swear. So those are kind of structured because, like, I have to talk about the sketches before I move on, and they're real time, so I have no choice but to say the thing now, and all of that. So let me know. I do value your guys' opinion on my rambling. It's very rare that I value someone's opinion on my rambling, but you guys mean a lot to me, so, you know, you can tell me to be quiet, I swear. But, getting back into things, I had quite the interesting challenge with this video, and that was I think I'm far enough into the YouTube video that, like, talking about body parts won't get too, like, punished. I don't know how that works, and I know that I press the button that says my videos are not for kids because, like, I talk about things and I don't communicate like... My videos are obviously not for children, but, like, to render the nipple or to not render the nipple, I couldn't make a decision, and I didn't really know that I wanted this piece to be, like, graphic in that capacity. I know I didn't render the, like, genitals, like, lower bits at all, and I just left it as this kind of thing that just exists. It's just a spot that exists between where the legs connect, completely smooth. There's nothing there at all. But when it actually came to the nipples, like, I feel like the chest looks really weird without them when it comes to an illustration, and especially an illustration where I'm not, like, trying to just show people who actively don't have nipples. Like, if I had, like, the necessary kind of indicators for that piece to make it, like, make sense and, like, kind of fall in line with the information that I'm trying to convey, that would be something else. But because this is about, like, the deterioration of flesh in that kind of, like, whole region, I didn't want to add those extra elements to make the lack of nipples kind of seem contextually logical. But I also didn't want to, like, care about them in much of a capacity or kind of, like, focus on their existence. But the longer I looked at it, the more the just vacant, slightly different colored circle started to feel a little bit uncanny. And I just kept adding things to try and make me feel a little bit better about whatever was happening that was making me feel like I was just missing the mark completely. And I don't even know that I did it. And I added something to indicate a little bit more detail, but I still to date can't tell. To date. I finished this today. I'm cramming this video. I can't quite figure out, like, I personally do not know why I can't make a decision on nipple or no nipple. Like, I don't like either option, I don't think, for some reason with this piece. And it's bothering me. Like, I usually know because I really like to show femininity in my art and feminine body parts in a, like, confidently feminine capacity, you know what I mean? And because of that, I usually really like to draw the chest, and the chest is something that I really like to make a focal point of my work because I like confident chest regions. I don't know. I don't really care the gender or gender identity. I very much like a good chest region, particularly that falls in line with like a more fleshy chest, right? I don't really like drawing particularly strong, kind of muscly chest, but like a good squishy chest, yes. I really like to draw them, and I like to accentuate them and kind of use that shape to help indicate the flow of the body. It's something that I very much rely on in my art to help make kind of poses feel more dynamic and kind of fun. Like if you look at the piece straight on, which I know I'm trying a different camera angle for this video, but at the end you'll notice that like the nipple of the left side of the page is kind of like pressed under where the arm is and hiding away, and it's at a much lower kind of position looking to the right one if you were to like draw a line straight across, because the body is arching upward kind of, but only on that side. So the chest, the nipple that is on the right side of the body is upwards. There's a slant to the whole kind of movement and flow, and it's also just falling in front of that arm, and so by like giving it that more accentuated position, it kind of makes the movement feel a little bit more natural and like in line with the piece. Now of course I would have to put it there in some capacity for it to not look completely jank, but I like to kind of accentuate the movement and the placement and be a little bit less realistic about it to kind of try and make the extreme more visible. Sometimes it still just ends up looking incredibly goofy though, but I do try my best to make it seem reasonable but still not totally like realistic to the body. I don't know that I articulated that well. This is a situation where to actually like make what I'm saying make sense, I might actually need to like pull up a picture, like a figure of somebody in a similar position, and like draw guidelines to kind of point out what I'm trying to articulate, but I hope I'm coming across clear enough. But that kind of accentuation of where the things actually are falling on the body is something that I very much like to play with and I find very fun. Also, nipples are circle shaped, and I obviously love circles and ovals. So, I mean, well, most nipples are circle shaped. Actually, I've never seen a non-circle nipple, but I feel like they have to exist. Like non-circle to oval-ish, right? You get what I mean. Like, I've never seen a square nipple. But, like, I'm sure they must exist, right? Like, if you can have 3 nipples, surely you can have, like, different shaped nipples. This is something that I'm not Googling, and I do not condone or advise anybody watching my video to Google. This is a public service announcement. Do not look up different shaped nipples, because I do not know what will pop up, and I am not doing the due diligence of searching it because I don't want to see things that are not what I am trying to describe. Thank you. I genuinely think there's a possibility that the part of the drawing I'm the least satisfied with was the fact that I decided to give it this blue background for some reason, which is on 2x speed. I hope that was clear, but my hand does not move that fast. It would die. But I was looking for something that felt right within the piece itself and didn't create too much opposition to the color harmony that I had going on in the piece, and I think I should have just done a complementary color. I should have done yellow to contrast with the purple, a nice like pale soft baby yellow. It would take like 5 layers of these paint pens to get a yellow to not look absolutely disgusting over this blue, if not more. And gonna be honest, drawing around those little wisps of purple really frustrated me, and I don't want to do it again. So I'm 50-50 on if I'm going to leave it as is and pretend it never happened and wallow in it for the rest of my days, or if I'm going to color correct it in Procreate and see if there's a color I like more and enough to be worth the amount of effort, and maybe just actually touch it up digitally in some capacity, give it a little bit more zhuzh, and then make it actually something that I put on Redbubble. I'm kind of torn on if I feel this is worthy of that kind of fate. Really not sure yet. But if I find another background that I feel really makes this illustration pop and feel, I don't know, good, and like gives it the life that I feel like it deserves and would actually kind of encapsulate it being like something people might actually want to put up, I will go through and at the very least make a version with that better background that I can post places and do like a side-by-side. If that happens, it will appear in the shorts and probably on the community tab. If you do not see this with a different color background in one of those two places, just assume that every other color option somehow just looked gross to me, or I had technical difficulty so severe that I just cried and gave up. Both of those are very, very possible with how computers and me have been getting along, and I don't anticipate Procreate will be all that much kinder to me, just with the luck I've been having recently. I mean, I had Zoom crash like 4 times this week, and usually it never crashes for me. I only need to use Zoom 4 times a week. Audio issues out the wazoo. Literally, I had one meeting where Zoom decided that my audio was going to not intake at the correct volume, and so I had to use my phone as a microphone because it just keeled over and died, and my mic wasn't near me. It was a mess. I mean, everything is deciding to just not work out for me this week. So, if you don't see a new background, I cried and gave up. I took the weekend off from tech. But, ideally, you'll see something around Monday. This video goes up on Saturday. And I'm also thinking about maybe changing my upload day to Sunday, depending on how people feel. I don't know. I do want to take an inventory. Inventory is the wrong word. I want to look at the kind of demographic and like when my subscribers are on YouTube the most, so that I might be able to make watching my videos a little bit easier and more convenient for you guys by having it go up when the majority of you are already on. I don't know if you guys are interested in that. That is something I can do with the amount of subscribers I have. I'm able to see that information. Some things I still can't see, like what type of content you guys actually like to watch outside of my content. I could monetize my videos if I wanted to. That's something that I've been really playing with for a couple of uploads now, if I monetize or just leave my videos unmonetized and that kind of stuff, because I don't really want to drive the community I've built away by making you guys watch an ad at the start of my videos. So all of these are just food for thought. I did ultimately end up like returning to the piece after a couple hours and going over it in some colored pencil to give it some more texture and make it a little bit more dynamic in terms of like the colors and how it was like presenting. But other than that, I didn't really end up changing much, despite the fact that I realized near the end that the hair really just wasn't working for me, and I made it a little bit too voluminous and kind of wild for kind of the face that I was going for, and I just feel like it didn't quite, I feel like it stole a lot of the power that like the facial feature could have had, feature singular, the singular facial feature, the face could have had, and because of that, I ended up feeling a little bit about it at the end, face-wise and hair-wise. I wish I would have like toned it down a bit, and I realize now that I'm actively editing the video, I forgot to add the horns back in, so that's something I'm gonna have to go back and do at some later date, assuming I can make them look not dorky now over the hair. So it's 50-50 if those will ever return to the scene or if they will just die in obscurity of the pen sketch, unfortunately. But coming to a close, I would really like to know if you liked the piece more before or after. And additionally, I also really appreciate you sitting all the way through to the end of this video, taking the time out of your day to basically sit with me for an hour of your life, and unless you watched in 2x speed, but to sit and chat and talk and maybe be creative alongside me. And if you want to see more of my content, I have a fair bit of it now built up over the years. You can also subscribe if you'd like to regularly see more of my content. Like if you'd like, dislike if you dislike, and I guess with all of that being said, I hope you have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day, night, wherever you are, and with everything being said, bye-bye!